My poem's called On the Death of a Mouse. A mouse is made that small for speed, not smarts, so when one tries to cross a busy road, it meets, perhaps, a car. It's a pleasant poem, you see. Anyway. Not quite dead then, spasming up from asphalt like a bag caught sideways in the wind, a mouse requires some mercy, some swift end. And I might think how easy, how abrupt that sentence seems. This is my right on earth, and duty too. For beauty flees this place like coastal rains, completely fast. It takes a year or two to see the vapors pass, or else a moment. We too, like some mouse, do writhe and spasm all our days, until at last we come to what we've earned, that death's so late for all we've run across, and mercy may make much of me, as only mercy can. Those last lines, I was excited to find that Sarah would use in her her song. So, we've had music and a mouse and some mercy, and now we will have Michelle. See what I did there? Thanks. Michelle Juneau majored in professional writing as well as dance here at Centenary, and then headed to the University of Baltimore, where she earned the Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing and Publishing Arts. She did the writing, designing, and publishing of her first book, the purple one, and The Floor Was Always Lava. Then she slacked off and only did the writing part of her more recent book, Notes from My Phone Asterisk. I mean, that's not, sorry. Notes from My Phone, published by Mason Jar Press. You can buy your very own copy here, well, copies of both here, or via her website, michellejuneau.com. Michelle has also published essays in several magazines and currently teaches graphic design and works as the Director of Alumni Relations and the Assistant Director of Communications at the University of Baltimore School of Law. To read her titles alone requires swiping up on my phone. It's just so long. It's very long. So, here's Michelle.
Thank you. Said that we don't really know what to call you. It's true. Today I introduced Jennifer as Jennifer, and that's the first time I've ever called you Jennifer. And now I've said it 4 times. Really working on it. So I was presenting at a conference this weekend. I was one of the keynotes, and I was with really impressive people right next to me. So like people who are much further in their career, who were giving this advice to all of these writers, and it was really important advice that I was kind of writing down. And then I get up there and I was like, so listen, I'm disgusting. And it's going to be amplified in the mic, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to lean because my equilibrium's off. And I thought that was a fine way of saying I've been sick. And it wasn't. People were horrified. And everyone was like, oh no, what is she going to read? This is going to be really awkward. So, I have been sick. And I am sorry that that is going to be amplified into the mic, but it is what it is. So I thought it might be fun, because I'm still warming up my voice at this point in the microphone, and just the way that the books were written. I haven't read from And the Floor Was Always Lava in quite some time, but these were written at the same time, this one on purpose, this one by accident. If you're interested in how you might write a book by accident, that's an excellent Q&A question. So just to kind of give you the framing of what was happening in my life, I'm just going to read a really, really small section from And the Floor Was Always Lava, and then I'll dive into my notes. So this is like camouflage. Can you guys hear me in the back? Are we good? Okay. If you can't, if you just like make weird movements, I'll interpret it. Okay. Like camouflage. I used to pull our small lavender step stool from its place in the cabinet beneath the sink, climb onto it quietly, and lean over the counter to stare at my reflection in the mirror. I'd trace the shape of each of my eyes with my finger pressed to the glass, leaving behind 2 smudges. One eye was significantly smaller than the other. Was that okay? And their color was different than other people's eyes. They were hazel, but with specks of brown and gold dotted with green, like camouflage, like my mother's. I wondered what I would look like as a grown-up. Would I look the same, just bigger? Would my freckles space evenly over my bigger face, or would I get more to fill in the gaps? Would I be beautiful? I desperately wanted to know what I would look like, who I would be, but I didn't want to grow up to find out either. Actually, I hated that idea. Growing up meant being brave, even without a nightlight. It meant living in a big house without mom or dad tucking me in. Growing up meant getting old and dying like my grandfather. All of that was scary, but my fear went even deeper than those understandable things. My aunt or uncle or grandma would say, "You're getting so big, and look how grown up you are." And I'd cry. My mother always assured them it wasn't their fault. I was going through a phase. How could they know? Then she'd tell me to hush and ask what all the crying was about. I didn't have the vocabulary to say that I hated the way time moved slowly on some days, but so quickly on others. My words couldn't say that I didn't like the way life moved forward with or without our consent. I couldn't explain that I couldn't picture my own face at my mother's age. Instead, I'd say, "I don't want to grow up," through dramatic, shallow breaths. She hugged me then and say, "You're being silly. Everyone grows up." Okay, so I think you'll notice the same girl, just a little more unedited. Okay. So I try not to, I'm not very good at giving explanations, so I try not to do it too much. You saw that a minute ago. But a couple of these I will give a little bit of explanation, otherwise I'm just gonna run through. So these are the notes from my phone. 9:37 a.m. We often picture an outcome and work backwards from that vision. But creativity isn't about working forward. Creativity is about working forward, not necessarily having a concept of where you're going. (11:58 p.m.) What I really want to know is how I end up. What's the end of the story? But here's the thing, maybe I don't actually want to know. Maybe none of us really want to know. Because if I'd known I'd fall in love with a man or two or three who didn't or couldn't or thought he shouldn't love me back, I might have never tried at all. And then where would I be? Growing up is critical. Knowing how it will end should be avoided. Because hope is what we run on, and without hope, we'd all be lost. Okay, this is the one that I explained. So I said I had a reading in April. So this book was published last December. A large portion of it is the both legitimately dramatic and the melodramatic pieces of a breakup. Has anyone ever gone through a breakup before? It can be an uncomfortable process. So the book chronicles a lot of that in a really embarrassing way in some cases. And then while I was promoting the book, I went through a breakup. This is a humbling experience that I don't recommend, because here's what happens. You give the book to a few friends, then you start going through this breakup, and then you're like crying about your breakup, and they're like, "Oh, I have a book for you. See what I did there?" And you're like, "That's precious. Listen, this is my real life." So it's a little humbling. So I don't read a whole lot of the breakup ones. So I'm going to do this one. And it's because it fills me with a little self-loathing. I also like to frame it as I'm fine. Everything's okay. Time has passed. It's okay. All right. 2:57 a.m. Lord, I'm awake, I'm tired, and I'm awake again. I'm exhausted from insomnia at night, and I'm never fully awake during the day. I want to take comfort in you, rest in the fact that you have a plan for me, rest in your grace and deep love for me, rest in the fact that those feelings and desires and misunderstood heartache will go away soon. But how will it go away if I don't let it go? I feel myself clinging to it, fists wrapped tight around something I thought you'd given me to protect, to guard and trust. What's the point of trusting or working at that, at really breaking down walls, if it's now all crashed down around my feet? What lesson about love should I draw from that? How do I understand you in that shattered place? Am I broken only to know I need you? Is that what this is about? I want to understand. I want to follow and trust and love you in all things. I want this rejection to be removed from my memory. I want the pain to stop rising up in my throat when I try to breathe. The days are fine. I'm busy with tasks, and my heart forgets that it is broken. My heart forgets that it is not wanted by the one I want. Even saying it now, I see the problem. You cannot be with someone who doesn't want you. And so then there's this battle between my head and my heart, knowing the truth, and not feeling the warm comfort of either. I'm living in this disconnected place where my head wants to praise you for all the good you've done, believing and trusting in the promise you've honored time and time again, first with the Israelites and so often in my own life, but I am not there. My journals show prayer after broken prayer, many without much thought of you at all. They show me what I couldn't see when I wrote them. Hope was around the corner. There would come a time when I wouldn't always feel that way. My head has seen what you do with time, but my heart's memory is short. So here I am, awake, exhausted. I'm fighting everything, including sleep, because the quiet reminds me of all that isn't. My body feels crumpled by the weight of exhaustion and melodramatic tears that come from not sleeping for months, and want and a deep need to understand. Lord, I need your real physical embrace. I need your arms, your soothing voice. I need you in my humanness. My head and my heart are battling it out, and they're too busy with one another to lull me to sleep. I'll breathe. Lord, I'll concentrate on that piece because it's the only thing I feel sure I know how to do. Forgive my weakness, but can you do the rest? I'll just breathe and you do all the rest, just for tonight, so I can sleep. Oh, thanks. Yeah. She's been there. They know. All right. Okay. 5:03 a.m. I just woke up with a mouse on me, but I'm okay. No, I'm not okay. It was on me. I was sleeping on my back on the couch because the bedroom didn't feel safe. I woke up to the pitter-patter of feet across the sheet and freaked out and started screaming immediately. In my effort to swipe him off of me, I tangled us both up in the sheet, binding my arms. I threw myself off of the couch, trying to crawl my way out. I don't know what happened to the mouse at that point. I screamed for at least 3 minutes straight, like someone was attacking me. It concerns me slightly that none of my neighbors knocked on the door or called the police. This is a reminder that I write nonfiction, and that really happened. 11:25 a.m. I saw him again. He ran out of my closet. I cleaned more and put steel wool in the hole. I got peppermint oil, which is supposed to hurt their little noses, and I plugged in the sonar repellent devices in most of the outlets. They say you only need one per room, but I don't trust it. No signs of him this morning. 8:38 p.m. I have been cleaning around the clock. If I can get everything spotless, I don't think the mouse will want to stay here anymore. He will simply take his little mouse-sized suitcase and move on out. Here's what I'm struggling with, though. Is it better for me to see him move out, say in a trap, or for me just to never see him again and assume he's found new digs, but always wonder if he's still here? I don't like hearing him at night, so I've been sleeping with Pandora on to cover any sounds of his little feet or nibbles or jeering. Also, I've kept the lights on in my bedroom, dimmed, but with every corner illuminated just in case. This is helpful, except now that I can't hear him, I'm afraid that I'm going to wake up and he'll be snuggled up to me, his little mouse body cradling the opposite side of the body pillow. But I can't lie there in the dark silence, half asleep, waiting for his pitter-patter either. It always comes back to this: is it better to know or to not know? I am not one for confrontation. I do not like speaking about hard things or the lump that forms in my throat when tears find my eyes. I don't like the way that men's faces change when my eyes tear, effectively steering the conversation to something less than honest, if only to stop the crying. I wonder now if the mouse is a guy mouse or a girl mouse. The power just went out. How is this my life? Now what? I'm in the dark with a mouse who may be agitated by the smell of peppermint. I filled the apartment with candlelight. It's actually quite nice. But what if the mouse runs across one of the candles and knocks it down and starts a fire? That's something he would do. I'm using my battery-dying phone to play music just to let the mouse know I'm still awake even though the lights are off. But now I feel uncomfortable because there's candlelight and I'm playing music and this is starting to feel like a weird romantic evening with the mouse. But maybe he's uncomfortable too and he'll just leave. "12:53 p.m. A plane fell out of the sky, and still the world went on. A day later, my hometown was on lockdown for a bomb threat and a suspicious device in the park where I learned to run. The same small town that only just mourned the kidnapping and death of a pretty blonde girl who was just riding her bike. And a plane fell out of the sky. When there's a school shooting, and there always is, I turn off the news. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to picture the children I don't have or my nephew's face. I don't want to empathize with the parents who live those nightmares, because the small glimpse I have from their tear-stained faces is enough to crush me completely. We are all numb, and more we are strangers in a way that we cannot come back from. And there was a plane that fell from the sky and another one that just disappeared. It disappeared with questions and loved ones, and we buried those people with conspiracy theories and opinions and Facebook statuses that ultimately did nothing for anybody. When I look at the photos, it's not the wreckage that ruins me. When I look at those pictures, I see an abstract installation at an overpriced museum. I can't make those images link back to my many trips seated on the blue Delta fabric with strangers and children behind me. The wreckage does not move me. It's the people left behind that cripples. It's the woman who's covering her face with her hands. This is her life. She's a real person, and this is her life right now. And watching her grief on the TV in my apartment alone on the other side of the world makes me lonely. Maybe the answer is not to shut her out, not really, but let her and her story take hold of my heart beyond my morning cup of coffee. In a world without faith, I find myself apologizing for it or tiptoeing around it, confessing silently to God that I do not know how to do better. There's another image of buses carrying relatives of the dead to and from wherever they're going. A holding area? Do they speak to one another? Do they start crying all over again, but this time together? I'm inconsolable when I cry, when I really cry. Is anyone able to console them? I remember the sharp-dressed funeral director closing the casket at my grandmother's funeral. I thought this part came at the end of Mass. I thought there was more time, another hour to work through a lifetime of questions. I couldn't catch my breath, surprised by my sudden grief and unwillingness to live in a world without her voice. There's another picture of all the luggage from the plane. Ordinary luggage, piled on top of one another with no one to retrieve it. It reminds me of the shoes piled in a room at the Holocaust Museum. It's all very ghostly, haunting. We work our whole lives for things that we cannot take with us when we go. I'm staring again at the photo woman, covering her face with her hands, wishing I could hug her and tell her she doesn't have to hide her hurt. How are we doing? We're okay? All right. Normally I only do a short one and then I close it out, but my nephew's here and I promised that I would read this one. Not that he'll remember it, but maybe. He's in that like weird memory making stage. So this might be a good one that like 10 years from now, he's like, oh, my aunt did this thing. That was really cool. He's got another aunt, so I'm really trying to. It's really, really important to me. Okay, 8:10 p.m. My nephew loves music. He loves bad music. He loves music, sorry, Ashley. He loves music that comes from my sister's lovely but out of tune mouth. He loves French music that I sing to him, even though I got a D in my college français class. He loves when we hum if he's crying. He loves Pandora. He loves the songs even when we change the words, as long as we keep a steady beat. It calms him and makes him smile. It lets him know that we're still here with him, that we hear him. Singing to him, watching him change from crying for any number of reasons, to a quiet whimper, to a smile, to a full-out giggle sometimes as he locks your eyes and you sing to him, it brings tears to the backs of my eyes. It moves something in the core of me that I can't quite explain, and I don't think it's just because his blood and my blood share similar properties. His mother, my sister, has explained to me that while all crying babies upset her, there's something desperate about her own child's cry. There's something that will make her move mountains to figure out how to stop his crying. When he cries, my heart doesn't break on that same line. Mostly, noise upsets me. Except, funnily enough, music. Blaring music is the only thing that pushes down the lump in my throat sometimes. There's a movement to it. There's an involuntary heart rhythm that it creates when I feel stuck in an emotion or painful experience. Whether I like it or not, something has to stir within me if I'm moving to music. I wonder if the same thing is happening to my nephew, if we share that bond somehow. He will not have memories of our last 10 days together, so I'm trying to remember everything for both of us. Okay. If there is a weirdest one, this is it. Buckle in. 12:13 a.m. For me, dreaming has become a platform to experience impossible realities over and over, replaying the outcomes with different variables. The outcome never changes from real life. The dead ones are still dead, the mistakes still mistakes. But the we is always a little different. I was just in a dream, replaying something from my early childhood, something I'm not even sure ever happened, a restaurant scene with my mother right before I was born. I was there in theory, I suppose, and so I was able to be there in dream, but the chronology kept skipping like it does in dreams, and now I wasn't watching my pregnant mother, but a pregnant me at the table, talking about how I was feeling. And my body in the dream knows the outcome, or the impossibility of it. My body has never known pregnancy, and so the dream isn't going to end right. I know this in the dream, so I start to look around. Because this is my other trick. I look for the unfamiliar parts, or the slightly off parts. I let the people around me keep talking. I only have a moment before they stop and notice me not playing along. And that's when I felt it. I could feel his eyes on me. One of these things isn't like the other. One of these things doesn't belong. I saw him hiding behind his menu. I smirked, now in on the secret, and walked right up to him. The grandfather I did not get the chance to know. I've now known him more in my dreams than I ever did in life. This silly peekaboo game, the one from when I was 3, the only real, although maybe not real, memory I have of him paired with me as a grown woman. I saw you there, I say. I hug him and he smirks. I found him. This is our game. Time is speeding up, only another moment before the dream catches up, or memory or brainwaves figure out that I know that my brain knows that I'm dreaming and it's time to wake up. Smile for a picture, someone says. It's your birthday. And in the moment I smiled and reached down to my non-existent belly, my first memories and future hopes and subsequent fears all coming in at the exact same moment. And I know that no picture of this moment actually exists and can't exist, and it's all about to fall apart. No, I shout, turning back to him and reaching out to shield us from the photo ending. The camera flashes and I wake off my pillow gasping. Waking up, I know I've had 5 of those back to back. There was one about being upside down in the snow, trying to find my way to the surface before I drowned as if in water. One has a boyfriend that perpetually blends with a husband on that side of sleep, and one is just a hall of mirrors of scenes of my life that are the most traumatic, that play over and over and over, shaping me daily in this pointless kind of movie loop with different choices but exactly the same outcome. It's annoying, really. It's as if to say, you know why you are the way you are, right? Of course I know. That's why I don't like to sleep. Okay, this is the one that I always end on. Just want to say quick, I did nothing to make tonight happen. Jennifer Strange and Sarah Dewey did everything from a million miles away. I just cannot say how grateful I am to Centenary, everyone that Jennifer named at the beginning, Candace, your team, Sage. I know that I'm forgetting people. Jessica, just really humbled by how much people just did this because I had this idea, and just really, really appreciate this space and all of you coming tonight. 5:45 p.m. Waiting is active. Waiting is a whole body activity. Waiting is preparing, getting ready, ready to move, to sprint. Waiting is a bending at the knees, a bowing in worship. Waiting is today. Today is waiting and being ready because I have no idea what tomorrow will bring. Tomorrow could be moving, tomorrow could be running away or toward, but running all the same. And I wonder, will I be ready? Thanks, guys.